I'm Tracy with MeatRx. I'm here today with another success story. We have our friend Mike with us, and he's going to share with us about all of his journey. How are you doing, Mike? And thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure, and I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Can you begin by telling us what your life was like before you came to a meat-based diet, your health conditions, and what kind of food you ate?
I will give you a précis of the health conditions because otherwise it would take forever.
Okay.
And I have to go back in history quite a bit because it was about 1996 I had Epstein-Barr virus, which I didn't know what it was at the time, and basically was tired all the time but kept on working. And after about 18 months of that, I went to see a doctor because I thought 18 months was a bit too long to be suffering that way. And they immediately booked me into hospital because they thought, oh, you shouldn't look like that. We think you've got cancer. And that's what I had. It's quite a normal thing, I believe, to get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from Epstein-Barr disease. It's a normal thing that can happen. And I was in hospital within a week, and they operated. After that, there was chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and the good part is that that worked. And after 5 years of going back every now and then for tests, they said, well, you're as clear as you're ever going to be. So that was good. However, in between times, I'd never regained my my energy levels. So I was unable to work. A lot of the time I was unable to get out of bed. And typical symptoms of chronic fatigue. Which at the time, it was very difficult to get any doctors to believe was a thing. And I was put on the regimen of graduated exercise therapy, which means that you're supposed to do more and more exercise, which made me worse and worse, which I believe is common to a lot of people. And basically that carried on for the next 20 years. As again, to cut a long story as short as possible. And so I wasn't getting any better. So I started looking for things other than doctors. And that led me to YouTube and Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung, I should say, and his ideas about fasting. And by this time, I gained a whole lot of weight. I was up to 100 kilograms in weight. And that was measured by the hospital, not me. I was rather surprised. I didn't weigh myself at the time and didn't realize how much bigger I'd got. My trousers and belts new because I had to make new holes in the belts to expand. But that didn't penetrate until I saw the figure of 100 kilograms at the hospital. So with fasting from Jason Fung, I originally intermittent fasting, and as I found that to be helpful, I worked on that and started doing longer and longer fasts over quite a long time. And then I found keto, again on YouTube, and that was very interesting. So I started practicing keto as much as possible. I also tried at the time to eat more vegetables because that's what the keto thing sort of suggested, whereas I'd never been much of a vegetable eater. I remember my parents always telling me to eat my greens, but I didn't most of the time, or if I did, it made me feel quite ill. So when carnivore started to be a thing, it amazed me, first of all, because I'd been told my entire life, got to eat your greens because you won't have the right nutrition. So when that became obvious that, wow, I've already discovered that you can go without eating for a start. Not that a very long time, but you can go without, which previously, oh no, you got to have 6 meals a day. Having found that was wrong, and then with keto, finding that you could change the way that your body worked so that you were fat adapted, didn't feel hunger anymore. When carnivore came along, I was a willing experimenter, and it didn't take much at all for me to discover that, yeah, I like carnivore because I like meat and I'm not that fond of vegetables. So I didn't really have to sacrifice much, to be honest. But so that was about 14 months ago. I'm not exactly sure of the dates. I didn't write it down. But I found it to be very easy. And here I am now.
Okay. Well, how did you find out about carnivore, and did you have any problem transitioning to it from your keto?
Absolutely no problem at all transitioning. It was really simple, and it was actually pleasurable because I no longer tried to eat greens that I didn't really like, that I thought I was eating for my health's sake. But turns out I'm still here, not having eaten any vegetables for the last 14 months. So seems like you can do without. But I think probably it was via YouTube videos that were on keto that, so I can't remember anybody in particular, but some people must have talked about carnivore, which got me interested. And so I started looking at more carnivore, I was going to say channels. I'm not sure there were carnivore channels at that point exactly. But just going in that direction on what I could find on YouTube. As I say, it was an easy sell to me because I didn't really like vegetables in the first place. But having found the difference to my health that a different way of eating could make, by this time I'd already lost 20 kilograms, something like that. And now I've lost 25 kilograms from that 100 kilogram worrying to finding out that was what I'd got to. So as I said, with the fat adapting of keto, it was very easy to go to carnivore. And of course, you stay in ketosis with carnivore most of the time, I think. And so I found it very easy. Also fasting whilst on carnivore, again, really easy. I'm on the second day of my 4-day before Christmas fast. I intend to have some bread at Christmas time, which I normally don't, and I know it'll put my weight up. It always does. This is sourdough bread, but I do love it. So that's my Christmas treat. No turkey. It'll just be some bread and some meat. I think I've got some pork ready for me.
That sounds good. So you are a cancer survivor. That's incredible. And you had, the weight issue, but you got some of that off with keto and fasting, and then a little more with carnivore. Is there any other things that you noticed about your transition to carnivore? I know you said it was very easy. Is there anything else that you noticed health-wise that happened for you?
Again, I have to say that I'm not sure quite where between carnivore and keto these changes happened. But if we go back, let's say 5 years, I was on at least 12 medications a day, 2 of which were testosterone patches, and I had to inject myself in the stomach every day with human growth hormone, which wasn't fun. And I did that for 20 years. And because I was feeling better, which is something that had never happened in the previous 20 years, basically from the Epstein bar, I felt like a new man, I think is the only way I can put it. It just was so different after so long. I started not taking the medications. And I did so in light of going to the hospital and seeing the endocrinologist that I'd been seeing. And I thought, if I tell them if I go and see them and I tell them I'm going to stop the medications, I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, oh, we mustn't do that. But because of my experience building up to this, I felt warranted that it was worth doing. So 4 months before the appointment, I stopped taking the medications. I went to the appointment, they took blood, and then told me, oh, you have to come back in another 3 months for the response, which was ridiculous, but there we go. And when I went back, the endocrinologist said, I don't know why you're here, actually. So I said, are you telling me that all my blood results are good? Yes, there's no need for you to come here again. So it blew my mind. But I think one of the strangest things is that seeing my GP and that specialist, I neglected diabetes. I was diabetic, and I'm not anymore, type 2. So I'd been diabetic for 15 years, and I'm not anymore. But my GP, who I would see for diabetic issues, merely said to me, oh, don't lose too much weight. No sort of, gosh, you've recovered from type 2 diabetes, which is something I'd never heard of ever happening. Not interested. It's very weird. I don't understand. I really don't. But it's a story I hear a lot from other people as well. So I've forgotten all about recovering from diabetes.
That's incredible. That is so incredible. Do you know at what point you just said gradually you had gotten off the medications, or do you know at what point you stopped?
For the diabetes, I was never on any medication. It was diet controlled. So I didn't have to leave off that. And as I say, it's been a process, and I didn't ever write anything down, so I'm not quite sure. I would always have stopped a medication having researched what that medication did. Oh, I have thought of another one of the 12, and that was simvastatin. They put me on simvastatin. And so that was an easy one to come off once I learned about simvastatin and everything you already know about simvastatin, I'm sure. But once that, I think that was the first one that I decided, right, now I know about it and done my research, I'll not take it anymore. And of course, this last COVID year, I haven't had a blood test in about 14 months, so which is unfortunate because I want to see the results. But I had previous blood tests, at least annually, sometimes after 6 months, in the 4 years previous, and all they did was improve. Didn't have any bad repercussions, apart from LDL cholesterol, of course, which I expected to go up, and it did. But it didn't go up to what I would call ridiculous levels, although the doctor said, oh, your LDL's gone up. I'm not worried about it. Not worried about it. You can keep your simvastatin.
Right, exactly. So can you tell me, Mike, what your day looks like as far as your eating? What do you eat in a day and how many meals and such? Right.
Well, I'm consistently on a one meal per day, unless I'm on a 1 meal per week or every 2 weeks if I'm fasting, obviously. But other than during the longer fasting periods, I should say that I haven't written down a calendar of when I'm going to fast. I thought it was a good idea to fast for 4 days before Christmas because I know I'm going to put some weight on Christmas Day. But I normally don't have a plan as such. What quite often sets me off on a fast is that my normal day is not eating until 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock is when I think of maybe eating. But what I found is, if I was doing something interesting, restoring an old wooden box, for instance, so I'm concentrating on that, and the time goes past 6 o'clock, I don't even think about eating. And I look, oh, it's 7:30. I haven't eaten. Okay, I won't. And it's that simple. It's, as I say, to me, it's mind blowing that can happen. I remember having blood tests from all of the 20 years of messing about. The first time I was asked to do a fasting blood test, and this would be roughly 20 years ago. I didn't know anything about fasting. And I rang up the surgery and said, well, I can't have cornflakes. No, you mustn't have a. What about a cup of tea? Oh, well, just have water. Oh. And the appointment wasn't until 11 o'clock. Oh my God, how am I going to not eat? And I can remember getting back from giving blood at that occasion, and immediately in the kitchen, oh, I've got to eat something. And now that seems mad. I can understand it was because I was eating lots of carbohydrates at the time, but now, as I say, I can just forget a meal, and that quite often will get me thinking, no, I won't have a meal today. And then the next day, I might well think, well, I've been fasting one day, might as well have another day. And again, I expect you know this, but generally speaking, if you fast for 2 days, you might as well fast for 3, because it's that second day that tends to be the more difficult one, where you're a bit more tempted to eat. Not hungry, in my case anyway, never hungry, but you just fancy that piece of bacon that's in the fridge. So if you can get past that into a third day, then the fourth day's easy. And as I've already said, I've found that over time that's built up so that the maximum I've done so far is 14 days. And even after 14 days, what tempted me was the taste of bacon. It wasn't that I was hungry. It was that I could really do with a bit of bacon, the taste. And that's the thing I'd like to bring up. It seems to me that especially people new to either keto or carnivore, they confuse being hungry with wanting to have a taste in your mouth. And it's important that you separate those two things out. And for me, for most of my life, I would not have known what I was talking about. Because what are you talking about? I feel hungry, I want to eat. But there is a difference between the issue of wanting to chew on something, maybe. I'm not sure what it is. I've never seen any scientific description of this, what I'm yapping on about. But for me, there's a big difference. I'm never hungry, but sometimes I fancy a nibble on something. And that is relatively easy to pass by if I have a drink.
Oh.
And there it is, gone. The nibbling quotient has been filled just by having a cup of tea, in this case coffee. But I think that's something that more people ought to know about.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. There's a lot of reasons it seems like that we turn to food, and one of them is just something to do out of boredom or
absolutely
something like that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for sharing your journey. Do you exercise much, or have you?
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would have forgotten to mention it. Because of the state of my health, I didn't exercise at all. I lost all of my weight with no exercise whatsoever, just couch surfing, basically. So that, again, is just amazing. That's it, counter to everything that I've learned for the 66 years of my life. But in the last few months, I bought a bicycle. And before it got as cold as it is outside now, I was enjoying going for rides on my bicycle. And as soon as the weather improves again, I'm going to be out on it a lot more. So I will be exercising. The only other exercise, I hardly call it exercise really, but the only other thing that I did was to lift weights, but only little dumbbell. I'm not even sure what the correct term for hand weights is, but I used those to try and improve my muscles in my arms, both of them. And that seemed to work, even though, as I say, it's not Charles Atlas kind of stuff. It was just light lifting, seemed to help.
Awesome. So you think your strength has improved with Carnivore?
Specifically, I'm not going to go for strength because I don't do that many things that require strength, really. But my musculature has improved, without a doubt. One of the things that, let's see, when I was, say, 3 or 4 years into the process of the Epstein-Barr, then the cancer, I tried to exercise because I'd exercised before. In my cancer specialist at the time told me that I'd done so well surviving the cancer because I'd been fit before. I used to run up hills and things like that on weekends, not in any competitive way, but just for fun. And not a huge amount, but I was relatively fit. So he thought that contributed to the success of the cancer treatment. But then I'd put on all that weight. I couldn't do any exercise. What exercise I tried to do just tired me out more. And what I noticed was that my muscles were disappearing, and that obviously the muscle tone was gone. And it was the ability to put back muscle. I don't know if you can see it there. No. Oh, look at those guns. There are some, take my word for it. Whereas previously there was nothing. I mean, there was just enough to lift my arm up, and that was about it. Actually, I used to have difficulty raising my arms above my head, which, look, I can do it. It's not that impressive, but compared to not being able to do it, that's definitely more muscle than I had before. Oh, but that I'd gradually lost in the illness, and now it's back. And it definitely helped with the carnivore, I think, because I'm eating, I don't know how to put it, twice as much meat as I used to eat on keto, I suppose. I don't weigh it or anything, but yeah, I would think it must be twice as much.
Wow. So what kind of meats do you like to eat?
I can't afford to eat ribeye steaks every day, so a lot of it is just minced beef. I don't know about American shops, but here they charge you more for less fat, and so I buy the ones with the most fat, which is cheaper, which is great. And occasionally I might have a treat of a steak, but mostly it's beef burgers and bacon, lots of bacon. My cheap advice for bacon is that I buy bacon offcuts. It doesn't have the right shape to go in some people's pans, but it's fine for me. Very much cheaper. And what else? I'm a bit of this is probably a bit naughty, but I do like my sausages. So I hope my sausages are good ones, but they don't seem to be doing me any harm.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Mike. I love hearing your story, your success of being a cancer survivor and losing weight, and just your whole journey is just incredible to hear about. And I know it'll help many people.
I hope so.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing this information.
It's been my pleasure.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.